Well, by this time, all of you know that President Bashar Assad has been accused of using chemical weapons against his own people. However, he is vehemently denying that he has done this. So what's the truth of all this? Right now, America is being asked to endorse an attack against Syria on the basis of the belief that he has used chemical weapons. This is a horrible thing. It's outlawed by international law, and therefore someone has to hold him guilty. Yet we've taken resolutions before the UN Security Council, and Russia and China have vetoed those resolutions. Why is Russia doing this? Russia says there's no proof that Obama has used chemical weapons. We know that President Bush accused Saddam Hussein of having weapons of mass destruction. That proved to be untrue. So here we are again. Nobody really knows for sure what to believe, because it sounds like chapter 2 of the same old thing over again. So what's really going on here? And I'd like to hear your input. Has he actually used chemical weapons, or is it more likely that the rebels used chemical weapons to make it look like that Bashar Assad did it so that the United States would come in and get involved? Which argument seems more credible to you? That's what I want to talk to you about today. The news is absolutely full over the weekend between the conflict over Syria, the speech made by President Barack Obama in order to persuade the American people as to what he's going to do. Of course, he has passed the buck to the Congress. He's asking the Congress to take responsibility for the attack. If the Congress votes against the attack, then what will Obama do? Will he just say, well, I can't do anything, and blame it on the Congress? He obviously did not want to make that decision. He hesitated. He vacillated. And so now then he has passed the buck to the Congress. Should we attack Syria? If we attack Syria, who will replace Bashar Assad as the head of Syria? Will it be the rebels that are burning Christian churches? Will it be the rebels that cut people open and eat their inward organs, like we've seen on the videos that have come out of Syria? Are we between the devil and the deep blue sea here? Are we jumping out of the frying pan into the fire? What is this really all about? We saw Christians fall under persecution in Egypt once the Muslim Brotherhood took over. Now then we're seeing a lot of the rebels that are fighting against Assad also fighting against Christians, whereas under the Mubarak regime and also under the Assad regime, Christians were tolerated and allowed to practice their religion. So is America finding itself on the side of those that would destroy Christianity? If so, why is Barack Obama doing this? Why did he say that the United States is not a Christian nation? What's his motives? What's deep down inside of his heart? We know his father was a Muslim. So what kind of a bearing does this have on the judgments of President Barack Obama? I don't know the answer to all these questions, but these are certainly questions worth asking. So that's the reason that I wanted to bring this up today. The main two items in the news are the next two huge prophetic fulfillments. One is this war in Syria, which means along the Euphrates River, and the Bible prophesies that a huge war is going to emanate from the Euphrates River that will kill 1/3 of mankind. All four powers that preside over the Euphrates River, all four nations through which the Euphrates River flows, are involved in this war in Syria. There are Iraqi, Iranian, and Syrian troops in Syria at this moment, and the rebels are training on Turkish soil and then moving into Syria to fight against the regime of Bashar Assad. So all four of the Euphrates River powers are involved in this conflict. The Bible says that's where World War III will come from. In the Bible, it's referred to as the Sixth Trumpet War or the Euphrates River War. So it looks like the table is set right now, and that will be the biggest war ever in the history of mankind by 40 times. We're talking about one person out of three on this planet. So we're dealing with a huge story, and the news over the weekend was absolutely loaded with stories, with different articles about this. At the same time, the next prophecy is a coming Middle East peace agreement, which will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to Armageddon. And there was article after article after article. Let me just real quickly give you some of the headlines. This one is about the Syrian conflict. Here's the headlines over the weekend. White House ready for solo strike on Syria as U.S. allies and influence fade. Bashar al-Assad interview. Show me the proof of regime chemical attack. Next article. Putin says it would be utter nonsense for Assad to use chemical weapons. Report, Assad's brother gave the chemical attack order. Russia foreign minister, West has provided no facts to back Syria chemical weapons claims. Obama delays Syria strike indefinitely by turning decision over to Congress. Another article, Obama's climb down on Syria attack spells military nightmare for allies Israel, Turkey, and Jordan. Iran, Russia advise Assad to transfer chemical stockpile to Tehran to avert U.S. attack. Yeah, put all those chemical weapons under the control of Tehran, which supports Hezbollah, which supports Hamas. Why not? Which calls repeatedly for Israel to be wiped off the map. That's a good idea. Continuing on, Syria asks UN to stop U.S. strike, prevent the absurd use of force. Facebook post said to be by Assad's son dares Americans to attack. Next article, Damascus, Hezbollah jack up threats on Israel in absence of Obama-Netanyahu coordination on Syria. Next article, Syria's Assad. The Middle East is a powder keg and the fire is approaching. Next, analysis. Putin sees chance to turn tables on Obama at the G20. Now, those were all articles about the Syrian conflict over the weekend. Now, what about the Palestinian and the peace talk situation, which, when successful, will trigger the beginning of the final 7-year period to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ? Are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm telling you that the talks that I'm going to read headlines about here in just a moment, when these talks are successful, and they will be, it will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon. Secretary of State John Kerry says that he believes the peace deal will be attained within 6 to 9 months. Well, 6 months would be January, 9 months would be April. So we'll see what's going to happen. Could the final 7 years start in January? Could the final seven years start by April? Well, according to John Kerry, they could. Here are some of the headlines. U.S. says its envoy took part in Israeli-Palestinian meetings. Next article, even with Syria on world's mind, Israel-Palestinian talks continue apace. Next, PA's Hamdallah, second group of Palestinian prisoners could be released by end of September. Next, Abbas says peace with Israel will be brought to a referendum for Palestinians everywhere. Sounds like he thinks there's going to be a deal. Mahmoud Abbas said that. Next, you can't be an occupier in your own homeland, says Mr. Bennett of the Israel Our Home Party. Foxes on the Temple Mount. Next, Savers Corner, Jerusalem. Next, government to explore upgrading all personal laws in Area C. Next, Israel conducts joint missile interception test with the U.S. and the Mediterranean. Next, Israel, U.S. carry out joint missile test in the Mediterranean. Next, the nuke hotel, exciting progress or sellout. Next, Jordan slams Israel for Western Wall prayer platform. Now, those are just the articles over the weekend that I felt like were pertinent, that I needed to download for this program today. I'm talking about massive amounts of information This is what the world is talking about today. So it's very, very interesting. And I do want to take your calls on the program today because I'm honestly asking the question, okay, do we believe that Assad has used chemical weapons against his people? Or do we not believe that? There are strong articles saying it's not true. President Obama is claiming we have proof that it did happen. Yet, we've been given very little idea of what that proof actually is. The UN inspectors have now left Syria, and they're supposed to give their report within a couple of weeks or so. We don't know for sure how long it will take. In the meantime, the G20 is meeting, and President Vladimir Putin is pressuring Obama to hold off until he can come together with the G20 nations and discuss this whole situation and to take away the explosiveness of the situation. So everything is up in the air right now. Congress is being asked to approve an attack against Syria. They had a vote in the House of Commons in Great Britain, and the House of Commons said, no, we're not doing that. That's our number one ally, Great Britain. And now we found out that the French people are against an attack against France participating in an attack against Syria. They're against it by 80%. And most polls show the American people are against it. And yet President Obama seems to be determined. Why is he so determined? And first and foremost, is it true? Has Assad used these weapons of mass destruction, these chemical weapons, against his people or not? I want to hear from you, and I want to give my opinion as we go along here because it's very important. Okay, well, let's go ahead and go to the phones right now. Wait a minute. I don't want to bring someone on this quick. Let me give you just a couple of the pros and the cons, and then we'll start taking your calls immediately after our first break. Okay, first of all, the pros. We have pictures of all these people. Yeah, we have pictures. I looked at those pictures. I saw little children that supposedly had been hit by these attacks. They were sort of running around like kids do until they were on camera, and all of a sudden they struck a pose and got a pained look upon their face. And I looked at that and said, really? And then I saw body bags laying out. I couldn't tell who was in those body bags. I couldn't tell whether this was a Hollywood stage scene, whether this was a real scene. We're getting all these reports. Some people say they're true. Some people say they're not. Those are some of the pros and cons. We'll continue in a moment.